I talked to the planners, like, what's my expression when I'm like annoyed, when you're like really stepping over the line? To look at me is like,
the best, but it's that, you know, like I'm like, you can't be bitchy, you know? Like you could say it, but not be, and sometimes it's just the way he comes off.
Yeah.
You know, but
Well,
it's all good. Sometimes people think he's being disrespectful, where that's not. You know him. That's not his way.
No, he's a great one of the. Knowing him for a long time, he was coming from, was it Mayfair? No,
Richfield.
Richfield. He kept it very tight where he was doing. So it's like, and he's responsible for anything that went wrong there.
He is tremendous. I don't know what I would do without him. So he's been with me for 10 years at the Grove.
Yeah.
But I was trying to bring him to the Crystal Plaza before that. You know, when I was at the Crystal.
Yeah.
I was trying to get him.
I remember that transition. It was like with Joelle there, and she bounced, and then it was, were you at Crystal Plaza?
Well, no, I was there with Joelle. I was there with Oliver. So theoretically, who I replaced is they were gonna fire Oliver, but Oliver convinced them to keep him and make them the head of operations, make him the head maitre d', and to fire Richie Madalena. And so they got rid of Richie Madalena and kept Oliver, and then Oliver didn't really work out. I mean, but I've been through a million people in that place. But look, everywhere, you know, we're a high-end factory, and it's not. We're not a factory in the sense that we're not the Venetian that does, you know, 7 parties a weekend. We do 1 party at a time, but we grind. We're doing daytime, we're doing nighttime, we're doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
You know,
but we were the United Nations of catering.
Yeah.
You know, we are any day. We are Middle Eastern, Glock kosher, Indian, Hindu, Sikh. You know, we are Muslim. You know, separate seating.
That's rare to have that type of clientele too. You know.
Well, you have to know. You have to know how to produce the events, and you have to be educated in the sales process as well. You know, so.
Gee, that's good. So you said Richie. Richie's at the Palace now. I think.
Yeah,
he's at the Palace.
Yeah.
And the other guy, he's no longer there at Villaggio, I don't think. So Pat.
Oh, Pat was at Elvis.
Yeah, I don't
but that was a whole crazy thing because Pat was married to.
Yeah.
What's her name from the Florentine? I don't know. Like I feel like so much of this industry is incestuous, and so many of these guys like worked in so many of the same venues. I've had 3 jobs since I'm 16 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked at 3 places. You know, and the reason why I left the first place was to open up a catering hall. You know, I was going to buy my own catering hall inside the temple. That's where I came from. And then I went to the Crystal, and at the Crystal, I was hired to be the GM. But Barry Rest, do you know Barry?
Very little.
Yeah, because Barry was like before like your time, and so Barry was there for like 35 years.
Yeah.
And Alan was very loyal to him and didn't want to fire him. But when I was hired, my contract with Alan was a 2-year contract. And it's funny, I break Max and Hunter, and I break Alan's balls too, because Alan theoretically fired me. But he fired me because I was working there for like 8 or 9 years and was supposed to be the GM like 7 years ago. And I was getting married, and I was engaged to my wife, and I said, like, look, now is the time. Like, every time he would throw money at me just to keep me happy, I'm like, but there's no throwing money at me to keep me happy. I have to advance my career. I got to make a move.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Oh, I remember, and you held it pretty tight there at Crystal Plaza too.
Yeah.
I remember. I
had a good run, but it was me, Fred, and Barry, and Nella. You know, there was a lot of us. So you know, But what I did, you know, the reason why Alan fired me is because I held him to his word. You know, you know, like I had a contract. I had things written down on napkins and stuff. So Max didn't know that I was really fired because Max was like, Max was young.
Yeah,
he was still in college even. You know, like I was there for Max's bar mitzvah, but Max was like, my dad didn't fire you because Alan never told him that he fired me. You know, I'm like, yeah, your dad fired him. Ask him.
That's too funny. Yeah. Well, all right. So let me go on here. Yeah. All right. Make sure I got some of my notes here. We got a clock, 5:12. All right. There we go.
My phone's off. So.
I appreciate it too. Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3. All right. It's 5:12. All right. Back at it again once again, and this time I am going to be interviewing a dear friend of mine who I've seen from the beginning. He's actually seen me from his starting ages as a DJ entertainer, and he now runs a very well-known venue from the beginning, I would say, because this one venue had a lot of obstacles, and he took the horns on this bull and made it one of the most recognizable North Jersey venue, if not in New Jersey. It's my friend Jason Shikofsky. Did I say it right, Jay?
Sounds good. Shikofsky.
Shikofsky.
I've been called a lot worse.
So Jay, we go way back, and I love to hear the story of the Grove. You know, the reason why I like the Grove so much is because I was there when they first started. I've seen a lot of in and out, but you've been there for how long now at the Grove?
I've been at the Grove coming on 11 years now.
11 years.
Yeah.
Out of the 11 years, you've seen it. You've seen it all. And right now, you have such an amazing team, a solid team. It wasn't easy. What I'm doing here is just changing cameras. So you have a solid team now. And this team is pretty much, you can't find anywhere else. You can't beat. You got Raul, who mans the whole place. I got to tell you, he's a cool dude. And then you have, who else you have?
Atefagog.
And then, oh my God, I forgot her name. Oh my God, Jack. What's her name? I did her daughter's Sweet 16.
Oh, Maggie Aranda?
Maggie, yes. Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
And you have a solid team, and it's really rare that I have this type of connection with a lot of his employees. But the Grove always left a great impression. But I admire people like you, Jay, who take over, help not just the owner, but also like really establish a business, which does not come easy. 11 years. Let's start when you first started at the Grove. Okay, that was not easy. You had all new faces. How did you kind of like you're the chef? You got to rest. You have to figure out the right ingredients to have a solid team. What did you do to try to like right now iron out the right team for the Grove 11 years ago?
Sure. So just to give you a little bit of a history, when I went to the Grove originally, I was hired as the director of sales, and we had went through some major changes. I was involved early on, and before I even started working at the Grove, and speaking to ownership and Michael Sabarsky, who's someone that was very, very involved in getting the Grove up and running off the ground. So Michael Sabarsky and Jimmy Vasilopoulos took some time because I was looking to get out of operations. Mm-hmm. In the past, my career has been working operations at the Crystal Plaza and the group that owns Northern Valley Affairs and a number of other temples as well. But I was looking to get into the sales end. So, I built my career based on experiences throughout the years. I started doing this when I was 16 years old. I started doing it as a busboy. A guy I went to work with, a guy who I played football with, didn't want to go to work one day. And I started bussing tables, didn't know anybody, and, worked my way up. Starting at the temple, I started working at B'nai Tikva in North Brunswick, which a lot of people don't know. And that group owns a number of different temples, beautiful catering halls inside temples throughout New Jersey. And, worked my way through being a waiter, bartender, running the cocktail room, maitre d', and, came up in the business that way.
So obviously you know what you needed to create the right army for the Grove,
Sure.
But let's go back now, because when we started this conversation, you only had 3 jobs, you said.
Yeah.
3 long jobs. What's your first job again?
So I'm 49 years old, and I started doing this at 16 years old and never went to college. So I worked for the group.
Great story.
I worked for the group that owns all those kosher catering halls, Northern Valley Affairs, Temple Emmanuel, and Cloister.
Yes.
And I started at B'nai Tikva, but I had left B'nai Tikva because I was actually going to buy one of their catering halls from them. So I had a couple of backers, some guys who I did parties for that wanted to invest in me. They believed in me and wanted me to open my own place. So I was going to buy the Marlboro Jewish Center from those guys, the catering hall inside the Marlboro Jewish Center. So I had this group of guys and a couple of guys that were each willing to invest in me singularly. And long story short, we were so close to getting the deal done, and the deal was done. And long story short, I went and I left B'nai Tikva, and I went there just to work on the transition. And when I saw what the business was doing, it wasn't doing exactly what I thought it was, what I knew it was going to do. So we renegotiated the sale price and signed a letter of intent. And long story short, they ended up backing out of the deal.
Yeah.
Which is when I went to go work at the Crystal Plaza, because my idea was, I was a fan of what the Crystal Plaza was doing. And my plan was, and I had actually approached Alan Janoff because I love the Crystal Plaza ballroom so much, I wanted to model the ballroom of the Marlboro Jewish Center after what Alan was doing at the Crystal Plaza. Alan shot me down, but wanted me to come and work for him.
Right.
And he had offered me an opportunity. Long story short, I turned down that opportunity because I was convinced that I wanted to be in business on my own. And
how long were you in Crystal Plaza for?
So I was at Crystal Plaza 8 years.
Okay.
So what happened was when these guys had backed out, Alan Janoff is such a good guy. He was mentoring me through the process of buying this catering hall. And he called me one day to check on me to see how, the process was going. And it just so happened, my attorney had gotten a letter from those guys saying that they weren't going to go through with it. And it was just this crazy coincidence. It worked out. And Alan Janoff is such a strong, passionate guy. He literally convinced me to stop what I was doing and drive up and go meet him. Alan, very interesting character, tremendous guy, tremendous influence on my career. But he's a guy, when he sees something he wants, so he made me go up there and he made me an offer I couldn't refuse, kind of like sitting across from The Godfather.
Yeah.
He literally made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I owned a house down in Marlboro, technically freehold. And I was commuting from Freehold to the Crystal Plaza every day for the first little while. Alan made that change as well. And I went on to have a really good run with those guys.
Yeah.
And Alan and I and, his family were tremendous to me. We had a great relationship back and forth. And I spent a good chunk of my career there. And then I met my wife, and we were going to get married, and I got engaged, and we're planning our wedding. And at that point in time, the Grove was just about opening up.
Yeah.
And the guys from the Grove had reached out to me. And I was at the Crystal Plaza for a long time, and I think there are no secrets because this industry is so intimate.
Yes, it is.
That I was supposed to be made the general manager. And Barry Ress, another one of my mentors who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, the guy's a living legend, but he didn't want to retire. So
no, that guy's
long
like
story
150
short,
now.
yeah. And long story short, that's how I ended up basically. I went back to Northern Valley Affairs because I was getting married and those guys had helped me out, and I committed to going back to work for them for a year while I smoothed everything out and, built my relationship with the Grove to get things up and running over there because I was a little nervous and hesitant. A brand new catering hall opened. There was no secret, that this tremendous place was opening up. I really think the Grove was, one of the first of its kind in the sense that it was a big, big venue in this area where there are so many.
Was this also the time where the Legacy was also kind of opening up as well?
So it was before. So the funny thing is, the Legacy was struggling to really get off the ground and get all the approvals at the time. So the Legacy was a concept, but the Legacy wasn't what it is now, and at the time, there was no guarantee that the Legacy was really going to happen. And I mean, that's another incredible story over there, what those guys did over there. But the Grove was the first big catering hall like that only did one event at a time. I mean, you had the Venetians and some other venues that were big, but the Grove's concept was a big venue that only did one wedding at a time. It
has a lot of details of my opinion, of a casino when you walk in. Very detailed, almost to me, it's almost like excess from Vegas because my wife's from Vegas, and I'm very detailed, very modern, and then the whole wow factor from the foyer.
Yeah, you have a tremendous lobby, a beautiful entrance. But the thing that's so unique about the Grove, which not everybody knows because different people have seen the Grove in different ways, it's the versatility of the space.
Yeah.
It's, you could have a beautiful, intimate ballroom for 300 guests or 250 guests, but then we do these events where you could sit 750 guests as well.
Yeah.
And some people don't even realize the versatility because, a renovation that we had done about 4 or 5 years ago is we renovated the air wall. So the air wall doesn't even look like an air wall. It's made of tufted fabric, antique mirror, and a lot of people don't even know that the ballroom could expand to be as large as it is. So, that's one of the really unique points of the space.
You brought up Alan's name because you mentioned he mentored you. And I don't think you're going to remember this, but Nella brought me in around the time frame that you were there as well.
Sure.
And I think you and I probably worked together maybe about a good 2 years, if anything. But I would say I've been with them for almost 12 years now. And when Nella brought me in, I sat down with Alan and I sat down with Nella. And I feel like I spoke with you too. But my name was brought up many times because I think they were looking for a new house DJ in there. And you mentioned diversity. You mentioned just a different type of cultures that the Grove and even the Crystal Plaza cater to. And Alan, I sat down with Alan, just like the Godfather. I saw his pinky ring and on. I was like, I chatted with him, and I felt nervous. But 12 years ago, yeah, Max and Hunter, I think I did their prom in Morristown Bear. He gave me that position, was like, Jack, that was one of my favorite calls I ever got from Nella, because I got it from the caller ID, said Crystal Plaza. I sat down with him, and I believe I even spoke to you briefly, but it was also like one of those moments where I like, all right, this is serious. This is serious that people are recognizing you for your work. And from that moment on, I was paying attention to everything, for every venue I went to, every photographer I dealt with, every maitre d' I was working with. So more, I even got yelled by you one time where I wasn't following your protocol or your list or the way you did your introductions. No, forgive me. I got yelled at you because I didn't do like a first dance or parent dances up front or something like that. And I don't think you're gonna remember that one, but I remember it. But it woke me up, Jason. It woke me up, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pay attention to this guy. I'm going to pay attention to this guy because if this is his show, he has to tell me what I have to do. I got it. I'm going to do this. And I'll tell you, it stung, but it woke me up, and it made me a little bit more to what I am today. So I tilt my hat to you.
I think all of our experiences, and that's when you talk about like the culture of this catering world, where we came from. I mean, there was a time where caterers are lunatics. The yelling, the screaming, the cursing. I like to think that we've all evolved, and I know that I've evolved. I know at different times in my career I may have been that guy. But, what I've done was, and when I run a party, I mean, and I say this to my staff all the time, I run a party with love. Like, and the reason why I get upset is because I'm so passionate about what I do. Because I don't just write things down on a piece of paper and say, here, let's do it. I spend time with the couple. And I make a point of going over it with the couple. I don't do it that way just because that's the way that we do it at the Grove or anywhere else I've worked in the past. I do it because I spend time with a couple. I find out what they want out of a party. I find out what their expectations are. I find out, are you traditional? Do you want to do grand entrance and all the dances and speeches right up front? Or do you want a party? I feel like now in 2023, people want a party. So, if someone wants that, I might recommend doing the grand entrance and the first dance and then setting off the party with a big dance set. And the other thing is just spreading formalities out throughout the night. Yeah. So, like, if I get upset with someone, now it's because, I mean, there's...
This is before social media, too, by the way, so let's just be clear.
There's method behind my madness.
Yes.
And when I get... I like to call it passionate.
Yeah. Passionate,
my wife,
focused.
My wife taught me that. It's passion. That's how I make up with my wife, because I do it with passion. But, I mean, there's really genuinely thought behind it. And, I work for the client. We all work for the client. So my goal is to make sure that the client has the best experience. But really what we do at the Grove is everything is so customized. From our food, from the way we run a party, the fact that when you walk into your wedding, you know who the maitre d' is, and that we spent the time with you, and we went over your event. And from the day you book with us to the day of your event, that we customized every single aspect of what we're doing.
Do you see any changes now? I mean, we're talking a decade ago, but like, do you see any changes now with like bands and DJs or photographers or planners, how they're coming in with like a whole different type of like programming and changing a lot of the formalities that like a venue like yours have created for the bride and groom? Do you see like any attitude or anything dramatic happening with something like that?
Well, I think the production of these events have gone to another level. And I mean, that's something that, I mean, if anybody knows your company and knows what you do, it's something that, you're on the forefront of that, whether it's your setups and your LED walls and your dripping Sparktacular and things like that. I mean, that's what people are bringing. I mean, we're bringing diversity. You know, guys like you are taking the game to another level. And, you know, it's, you run a party and you speak on the microphone with the same love and the same knowledge of the couple. You're not just walking in and you're an MC. You've built a relationship with this couple, and that day we're executing their dream. It's the most important day of their life, and you know, we can't take it for granted. And that's what I've drilled into every maitre d' that works for us, is we run a party with love. Like in your kid's video, if you're doing a Sweet 16, I don't want to see cards on the candle lighting table. Like, we have card boxes for that. You know, you have to pay attention to every little detail and run the party with love, like it was your kids.
Is there a certain process when a couple or just a regular client just walks to the Grove and they say, you know what, I'm getting married May 24th, 2024. What's the
May
process?
24th is my bar mitzvah date, by the way.
It is?
So,
I guess I did my research right.
Impressive.
But let's just say the client walks in and that's their day. Is there some sort of, how do you kind of filter out this client? Because not all clients or all customers are going to be for you. How do you know off the bat when they walk in, they sit down with you or Raul, that this client is going to have a different experience with us at the Grove? But how do you walk them through this whole process of booking your venue space?
So I think the most important thing to do is to listen to what the client wants.
Yes.
When I have a new sales guy, or I don't hire new sales guys. You know, I'm hiring people with experience.
Let's bring Barry back 150 years later.
Exactly. I'm hiring people with experience, but what we're trying to do is introduce them to our culture. And our culture is really about listening. You know, chances are every bride envisioned this wedding since they're 7 years old. You know, is she a princess? What is she? So I let them talk to me, and I ask them how they envision their wedding. I ask them, what's important to you? And look, nowadays there are brides that are very busy and that, you know, want to give you a picture board of what they want their wedding to be. And there are other brides that have my cell phone number that I speak to 3 or 4 or 7 times a week because, you know, they need to get everything off their mind. So, you know, listen to the brides and grooms, listen to what they want, and we will give them what they want, and we will deliver, and we will over-deliver.
I'm sure you've seen this, but have you seen the dramatic shift in, I guess, even in customers and clients, how back then they know what they wanted and they listen to you. Now they're coming in with an arsenal full of Pinterest, misleading photos or videos of what they've seen at other weddings at your space. What are the questions that they ask that kind of, like, you know, makes no sense when they explore the Grove?
So look, I tell brides all the time. I said, you know, and there are times where you have to step in and say, look, that sounds great, but you know, this is the biggest day of your life. So it's like when a bride comes in and, you know, say we're picking out the menu. This is one of my favorites. And she's like, you know, I want to serve salmon for dinner. Well, you eat salmon at your... Not that I won't serve salmon for dinner,
right.
But I feel like I'm obligated to tell you that, like, salmon is something that 60% of your guests ate at home one night last week. You know, so if you're getting married at the Grove, it's the most important day of your life. Like, I want to give you something different. I don't want to give you what you ate every night. Look, do I genuinely believe deep down inside that if you eat our salmon, it's going to be the best salmon you ate last month? I could almost guarantee it. I mean,
yeah.
Our chef is tremendous. But I want to introduce you and I want to show you some different things. So that's where one of the things about our sales presentation is, and I'm sure you've seen this before, I have Apple TV in all of the sales offices, and I have Apple TV in all of our bridal suites. So we're constantly scrolling through pictures. So we have the ability of saying, look, salmon sounds great, but wouldn't you love something like Boston baked Dabo cod over potato hash with the New England lobster sauce, or...
You really know your shit, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll tell you that.
You know, it's
I'm
like that's what.
hearing you.
But I'm good. But at the end of the day, if you want to choose salmon, it's your wedding. I want it to be your wedding, but I want to tell you the different things that we offer because you're getting married once. I did this 310 times last year.
Yeah.
But it's not just that I did it 310 times. I could honestly say that so many of the events we do, every event is its own event. There's no cookie cutter, and our chef and our production team, the place is never set up the same way twice. I mean, you've seen it.
It's massive.
Your DJ setup has been on 6 different walls at the Grove. I mean, and there's just so many different things we could do and so many different ways we could customize the event. I think that's what we do. I mean, our production team, our building maintenance team, our chefs. It's not like, oh, we're doing this on Friday night, so let's sell this on Saturday night.
No, you got an amazing team.
That's
though.
that's never even an option. I've been in production meetings, where someone has said like, oh, well, I don't care about that. I don't care what the setup was yesterday. I don't care what the setup is that morning. We have the team we put in place and we built over the years. There's nothing you could do to us that hasn't been done already. There's not a turn that could be harder than a turn that we've done a couple of months ago. We'll get it done. Let's just do what's right for the client, not what's right for the Grove or to make our lives easier.
I'm impressed there, Jason, because it seemed a guy right out of school, no college, but you sponged everything, those 3 jobs, with a bunch of mentors. I'm impressed.
Look, I've had some of the best in the business. I mean,
that's true. That's true.
I've definitely worked alongside some legends.
That's great, and you're one of a kind then, because there aren't many people that really appreciate that moment, those times, because to them it's just a regular job. This is actually your career, and this is why you're leaving. You're going to be an iconic person. The day you leave, like Barry, at 150 years old, you're going to be iconic, my man.
I'm only 49, so I'm not so good at
math. Which I'm surprised about that, too.
I'm not so good at math. I throw parties for a living, but if you divide 150 by 149 by 49. I got some time left.
Well, I'm 43, so it's like so we are right there. So, all right, let's talk about one of the things that I know a lot of venues have been struggling. It's almost like, I guess you could say, it's what if something goes wrong, such as I don't know if your clientele had this, but if there was a brawl, if someone drank way too much and they're just slurring and they're falling on their faces and in the foyer. They're a liability right now. How is someone like you guys, what do you guys do to diffuse this type of problem that you see escalating? It's only going to be worse at a wedding.
So that goes back to training as well. So part of what we do also is I hold, in that case, my bartenders to a very high standard. So if I see someone that's not in as good a shape as they should be, I go directly to the bartenders at the end of the party and we'll sit down and we'll have a meeting and I'll say, guys, what side of the room was that guy on and who was serving him and why does he look like that? Because we make a point of, look, nowadays staffing is a challenge.
Oh, yeah.
In every sense of the way. But there's accountability in everything we do, and it's not a matter of pointing fingers at people. It's a matter of saying, look, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Because I can't make that guy not smash. That guy got smashed because, he drank too much Wild Turkey. But, did we give him too much? Or did he come like that? Last weekend we did an Egyptian Coptic Orthodox wedding.
That's something.
Tell me about that. We do a lot of them. They're fantastic, and we have a tremendous clientele. There's, we have a number of different churches that, we've done a bunch of work for, and they do. But a trait of those weddings is they get married in church during the day, and there's a pretty long period of time. Yeah. These guys know how to throw down, and, they get to us, and they've had a good time, so it's how do we manage that? So training, how do we manage that? So a guy's drinking Jack and Coke, he's going to get a lot more Coke than he's going to get Jack, at that point in time. But that's the accountability I hold the bartenders to try to manage that.
What is the whole, I guess, the procedure of hiring the right staff? Because like we mentioned earlier, you have a solid, I believe, 4 or 5 people that I always meet all the time the day of. And they're there since the last 5-6 years I've been there. They've been very consistent. So what is the process of hiring the right type of army for a venue like yours? Because it's not easy. A lot of venues are just finding, these agencies, and they're just coming in, but they're not holding the right
you
quality.
Don't know who you have.
Yeah.
So what it comes down to is key people and management. So when I say management, I consider my maitre d's. We have two fantastic maitre d's that have a tremendous amount of experience. My captains, my bridal attendants, my butlers.
Yes.
So those are the people that I hold accountable. I don't hold accountable, a 22-year-old Montclair State,
Yeah.
frat boy or girl,
For the shots that he's passing out.
Exactly. It's not that, but it's like my head bartender, who it's his job because he's working with the people day after day and time after time to teach him the culture at the Grove, and he's the guy that is saying, hey, you see that guy? Keep an eye on him, so it's my head bartender, it's my captains, it's my maitre d's. And look, communication is key. I mean, we've all been to the catering halls. Everybody's got walkie-talkies. Like, I tell my staff, I said, everything that's happening, I need to hear on the walkie-talkie. Like, I want to hear that there's a problem or that there's someone so that I could come downstairs and keep an eye and maybe make a recommendation of what we could do. Because, like, I'll be in conversation or I'll even be with a customer and I'll hear what's going on the radio, and I'll excuse myself just to check on it or address it or to make sure it's not too big of a problem.
No.
Like, that communication amongst our team is key, and proper training. I don't expect every new bartender to know how to manage a crowd, but I expect my head bartender to know how to manage a crowd and to communicate with the maitre d' or, other managers, the salesperson, so that we can know what's going on and know that there's a group that's tipsy or they're doing too many shots. Look, there's what one of my mentors taught me: 10,000 hours. If you do something for 10,000 hours, you should be a master of it. So, like, maybe there's a party that's doing a ton of shots and we're starting to lose control of the party.
Jeez.
So we'll create the rule: the last hour of the party, there are no shots. I mean, where we never like to limit anything, but I'm limited. I'm doing that, and I'm not doing that for the Grove. Of course, there is liability. I'm keeping out for the Grove. But I'm also doing it so the bride and groom don't lose control of their party.
Yeah.
And so their party doesn't end with people puking on the dance floor.
Yeah.
So when I do that, I'm doing it with our business in mind, but I'm also doing it with our bride and groom in mind. Like, look, do they really want this person sloshed at their wedding? Or, we're doing speeches and the drunk guy's stumbling behind the bride and groom. We're doing our best to remove that person before he can embarrass himself or the bride and groom.
Now, how many events does the Grove do? Because it's very diverse. You have a very wide range of culture, religion. How many events is something like the Grove?
We call ourselves the United Nations of Catering.
Okay.
So
that's true.
Today alone, I sold a gypsy wedding, a Glock kosher wedding.
How do you like the gypsy weddings? I got to know.
So I love these guys.
You do?
So they are, I've learned my lesson and I've gotten burnt, and they are some of the hardest nights worked. But the couple I'm working with today, I got to tell you, I love these people. This particular guy, he's tremendous. He's a pastor. He's from Florida, but he was recommended me. So one of the trips in the gypsy world is I have a couple of guys that I know and that I've done parties for where I could find out what the people are about.
Yeah.
Now, some of the gypsy parties could be wild and out of control. I stay away from those guys, or I don't give it for free. I make sure if they're going to give me a hard time, I am not going to, I'm going to make sure that everybody's well compensated, that we have the proper security, that we have all that. But, I mean, it's just really knowing your clientele. And I've been doing this so long that, in the gypsy world, there are tremendous gypsies, and there are tough gypsies also.
Yeah.
The tough gypsies I charge top dollar for, and, you want to have it, you have it. If not, it's not worth it.
Right.
If not, but understanding the culture, delivering. I treat a gypsy wedding just like I treat everybody else. One thing about what we do, and one thing Jack, is I'm big on fitting people with the right vendors for them.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to send, I'm going to send a gypsy to the right vendor for them. Unfortunately, in the DJ world, the gypsies have one DJ.
Yeah, that's
they
true.
have this guy, Nick, who's a great guy. But, I'm not just sending them to anybody.
Right.
You have to know how to handle them and manage them. They're going to use certain people for decor because their style's a little bit different. They're going to use ice carving vendors and special cake vendors. So what we try to do is diversify, and we have vendors that we recommend people to for gypsy weddings. If I have an Indian wedding, I have certain decorators and DJs and photographers and florists that I'm going to recommend people to. We try to recommend people to the right vendors for them.
With a venue like yours, with all the diversity and all these events here, you have to have this one special secret that you guys are above the rest with a lot of the venues, because you're in the most competitive area in North Jersey. We talked about it earlier that in 1 mile radius there are about 5-6 venue spaces.
It's crazy.
So they're doing something right. Obviously, I appreciate you putting your time here with me, because I love to know this, and I think other people in the same industry want to know, besides your staffing, there has to be something that really sets you apart from the competition, aside from just being one of the most top prestigious places here.
So I got to tell you, and at the Grove, it's 3-phase. It starts with the ownership. I have the most unbelievable owners that anybody could ask for. These guys, I've never asked for anything and they've said no. They give us the best quality staff. They buy the best quality products. Any renovations, anything needs to be done. I've never asked them for anything that they haven't asked my opinion. They don't tell me what to do. We do it together, And the other thing is I have the best kitchen in the business as far as I'm concerned. Our executive chef, Anthony Garudo, has been there since day one. The quality of the food that he puts out, the ease of which he puts out this food is
your
mind-blowing.
cocktail spread is amazing.
Yeah.
That cocktail spread
and our
is
kitchen, I invite anybody into our kitchen at any point in time. It's the cleanest kitchen I've ever worked at. He's a mad scientist, and look, chefs have a bad rap. I've worked with a lot of great chefs. At all 3 venues I've worked at, I've been lucky to have great chefs. But I've also come in contact with some horror shows. But Anthony, this guy takes care of this kitchen and owns his job and puts out the best food and the best presentation and does it with ease. It's been a pleasure working with, and he's my partner.
Yeah.
I'm the GM, but we do everything together. I run everything by him. He's just the best partner I've ever worked with in the business. I have so much respect for the guy and his work ethic. And
with Chef Anthony now, do you guys ever get a random request I wanted to get soft shelf crabs for dinner and stuff like that?
Yes.
What's the most absurd request that a client ever asked?
So I say this all the time. There's nothing you could do that hasn't been done to me already. The amazing thing about him is he pulls it off every time. Not that this is a crazy request, but this just goes back to us being being the United Nations of catering. So we had a Haitian client, and we've done a lot of really good Haitian events, and we had this woman that wanted to bring her mom in to make to teach our chef how to make a dish.
Wow.
So again, going back to my Apple TV, I showed them this red snapper, and they wanted to put pickles, which is this spicy cold pepper based coleslaw, and this thing called Jean rice. But she refused. So we did a tasting for them where we did some research. We figured out how to make it, and chef made it for her. And chef,
how was his reaction? How was the
chef's reaction? So the great thing about chef is he will do anything we ask, and he's on the same page. Anything the client needs, the client gets. He might look at me like I'm a little crazy. Remind me about the birthday cake first, after as well. So we did this tasting, and the woman said, "Oh my God, I cannot believe you made this. It tastes just like my mom's."
Wow.
And
that's a
now
feeling.
it was amazing. But now every Haitian party that we do, I say, "Hey, if you want, we could do this," and people are sold. Because it's you're bringing a taste of home for them. We're bringing something to the table that I don't know a lot of people that would even try
and
to
Chef
do
Anthony
that.
remember the recipe.
Remembers the recipe. Nothing he forgets. So I'll tell you a funny story.
Let's hear the birthday cake.
Yeah. So I have, we're blessed to do a lot of beautiful high-end barn bat mitzvahs.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of unbelievable party plans I work with, one of which is this Beth Fink. And Beth comes to me one time, and Beth's background is in catering. She actually worked with my sister-in-law at a catering hall in New York City. Okay. So she knows food, but, she stretches it. She stretches it. And, every time I'll go to Chef, be like, oh, it's a Beth Fink event. He gives me the little eye roll, but Chef has a tremendous amount of respect for her and what she does as well. So she comes to us, and this whole party is built around this theme. It's my birthday. I'm going to eat my birthday cake first. So I call Chef up to my office. I'm like, Beth, you're crazy. So she wanted a sweet first course. So and everything around this party, all the decor was sprinkles and confetti and everything. And everything was, it's my birthday. I'm going to eat my birthday cake first. So he came up with this, savory bread pudding with this salad. And he was just shaking his head at me. And forever, I'm going to be, known as the guy that was willing to serve the birthday cake first. Wow. And he'll never let me forget it. But again,
did that make an impression though? Like, what
everybody
happened?
at the party was like wowed by it, and it went over great. I mean, is it my favorite first course ever? No, but did we do the job? There are certain parts, but that's the thing, and that's. You need to know your audience. You need to know what the client wanted. You need to know what the party planner wanted. And while maybe it's not the first course that we're most proud of, that was what the party demanded. Right. And we did it in a way where we looked good, the client looked good, and, it was something that was totally different that had a tremendous wow factor. I think the only, the great part about that is we didn't just do the first bat mitzvah, we did their second bat mitzvah and third bat mitzvah as well. So the birthday cake first couldn't have sucked. They came back to us again. So
Beth, Beth the planner, she's done only elaborate events, and she brings in an A squad, a whole team.
She's killing the game. I mean, what she brings and just the diversity she brings to every event is really tremendous.
How does a venue allow to have to build a setup like that, from drapery to like video walls to like staging, furniture? How does a venue even know how to plan that properly? Because there's some factories that they have events back to back and they only leave like an hour or two to set up. So how does the Grove manage, if Beth was coming in, she got this A-list bar mitzvah coming in with a huge team, how does the Grove manage something like that?
So it's all about preparation. It's all about preparation. And one of the things the Grove has, which makes it one of the easiest places to do 2 events in a day, we do 1 wedding per day, but we could do a daytime and we could do an evening event. Now, look, if the daytime event's 400 people, then you're using the whole entire ballroom. But what we spoke about before with that movable air wall, something that's great about the venue is we have a whole nother ballroom that's attached to the ballroom where vendors could load in, and it doesn't affect the first party because there's a loading entrance on the side. So we'll literally have, for the second party, we'll have all the tables set. DJ will be able to have all his equipment in there. We'll be able to have half the LED wall built, and then slide it into place, open the wall, and just slide everything from the next party. It's the easiest place I've ever done a double in. Yeah. Most venues have 1 cocktail room, 1 ballroom, and I've lost a lot of hairs, gained a lot of gray hairs, and been under a lot of stress working at other venues where you're doing the turnover. I mean, the Crystal Plaza being the king of doing 2 parties in a day, and the things that they pull off, they continue to pull off, that we've pulled off there, is nothing short of amazing.
I'm
especially
impressed.
being that venue well, and I know you do tons of bar mitzvahs and weddings there. I mean, they have so many. One thing that they have is they have so many temples within a 5-mile radius that they do so many daytime bar and bat mitzvahs, and these bar and bat mitzvahs all have tremendous production around them. And then you have to turn over to a beautiful, elegant wedding. There's only one way in and one way out there for the most part.
Have you seen Crystal Plaza now with, it's one of our DJs. Have you seen Crystal Plaza now with the renovation?
Oh, yeah. It's tremendous. Those guys are good friends. Max and Hunter and I played golf together last week. They're still very good friends that are like family, tremendous guys. And,
Sorry, let's say that one more time. Say that again. One more time.
I said those guys are just tremendous guys, very good friends. And look, we have a tremendous working relationship. I recommend them to do kosher events at our venue. If I'm booked on a day, I'll send people to them. They say if people can't fit there, they send people to me all the time.
100 plus years, I think they were.
I mean, it's tremendous, but it's a legacy.
Yeah.
It started with Alan. It started with Alan's father and Alan's mother, who had recently passed away, who I attended the funeral as well, just because, they're matriarchs in the business. And again, when I talk about my mentors and where I came from and who taught me, that's where I come from. And, a lot of what I've learned and a lot of where I am today is from Alan and his family.
There has to be a favorite dish of yours that you like at the Grove. Let's talk about your cocktail hour. What is one of your favorite dishes that you enjoy at the cocktail hour, and then the favorite that Chef Anthony makes for your main course?
Yeah, you're talking
one thing if you could try it.
You're talking tough right now, but our Southern Italian Village is one of my favorite stations. I like variety. Chicken Parmesan pizza, a dish we stole from the Quality Italian in New York City. The homemade rice balls.
That is fantastic.
I didn't get this way from eating salad. I'm a Jewish kid that's got some Italian roots in me deep down somewhere. But I love some good Italian food. Just the quality of his meats. Our triple cut New York strip steak, where we take a prime New York strip steak, we carve it into 3-inch pieces. We carve it to order.
And this is just for the cocktail hour.
Yeah,
this is like the stations. Yeah. What about the main course? You got a favorite one.
So I'm a carnivore. But my favorite dish that we make is the Boston baked Davo cod that's served over potato hash with the New England lobster sauce. So normally I eat meat, I eat chicken, whenever that's on the. I don't really eat fish, but whenever that's on the menu, that's what I'm having.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So there's some people that I know are thinking about opening up restaurants and also working with venues like yours. What are any words of advice? Let's just go back to the puppy Jason, his vision about opening up a restaurant or a venue. What are any words of advice currently now that you want to give to people that really want to open up their own restaurant or venue?
Put the customer first. It's all about the customer. Every decision that you make has to be in the best interest of the customer. And one thing that the Grove and Chef Anthony taught me is if you're not going to buy the best quality, do not put it out. Anybody could put out a salad or mozzarella or gorgonzola cheese, but take time and find out what the best ingredients are. Find out where to buy the best ingredients. We don't just buy just to buy. We don't just buy from one guy to get everything from one guy. One thing Chef Anthony told us is he has the best dairy purveyors. He has the best meat purveyors, the best chicken purveyors. It's easy to call Cisco or U.S. Foods or one of the big boys and just place your order, place a gigantic order. It all come on one truck. One guy's accountable. But what he does and what he's taught me is diversify. And again, what he did during COVID, when you couldn't get food and you couldn't get certain things. We have 3 purveyors for everything. So, and we changed the way that we ordered, we would have deliveries start coming in on Tuesday because if it didn't come in on Tuesday, we'd order it on Tuesday from someone else to come in on Wednesday. And if it didn't come in on Wednesday, because that's what we went through during COVID. But that's one thing Anthony's taught me. By far the best manager I've ever worked with, the way he runs that staff and the way he orders food and, brings so much to the table.
Look at that. All right. Now, you're obviously a married man with kids, right? How do you find time to, in the industry that we're in, how do you find time to be a loving husband, father, and yet do this? Because it's not just your wife who wants you. You have these brides, even grooms, they're like, I need Jason there. I need Jason there. How do you find the way to divide that time?
So in my house, Daddy goes to work to make the donuts. And one thing about my life a lot of people don't know about me, or a lot of industry
70s, 80s
people
reference,
don't know.
I think it is.
Yeah. A lot of people in the industry don't know about me is my family lives a kosher lifestyle. We're modern Orthodox Jews. My wife and my son are Shomer Shabbos, meaning that they don't drive, they don't watch TV on Sabbath. I mean, I go to work to provide and make the donuts for my family.
Yes.
My son goes to yeshiva, and we're very involved in our community, but I'm very involved in everybody's community. And look, I'm always on my phone. I encourage people to text me first. One thing COVID taught me is COVID gave me a dual SIM. So now I have 2 phone numbers. So now I know if someone's calling me and it's a Grove client, and I know if it's a personal call. My wife will tell you I always answer the Grove. I always answer her, but I don't always answer all my personal calls. But that's how we make the donuts. That's how,
because this is not an easy task.
It is not easy, and I'll never forget. My son was like maybe 1.5, 2 years old, and like Monday and Tuesday are my time with my son. I really try to put him to bed. I try to be there every morning. I'm there every morning for the most part, to wake up, to spend time with him and my wife. Night times are with my wife, and Monday and Tuesday is for the most part my weekend. I mean, I always say to people, if you're looking for a guy to hang with on Monday or Tuesday, I mean, I'm your guy. I'm not necessarily always around.
That's why you
Friday,
golf with
Saturday,
Max and
or
Hunter.
Sunday. Yeah, and I'm a golfer, so I play golf a little bit in the mornings. But I always make time for my family, and I always make time, but you have to prioritize. If a bride needs me, I'm there for her. But that's why I always recommend, send me a text first. I could either respond to you right away, or I could say like, hey, I'm with my family, I'm eating dinner, I'll give you a call back in an hour when I'm done. But my commitment to them is I'm going to call you back in an hour when I'm done. I don't go to bed until I cannot have like a message left on my phone, like that red dot or the red 1 or 2 or I don't go home at night until my emails are answered. I don't go to bed at night until my texts are responded to. It's just my OCD.
There's a few, and you're hearing it from me. Maybe you've heard this before, but obviously I know a lot of venues and we work a lot of different venues, but there are very few GMs that actually stay with the client to the very end. Very few GMs that are out there. A lot of GMs just do the sales and they're out. That's it. They're not even there. They're not even there the day of. Sometimes it was reassuring that knowing that the person who sold me my dream is here. So again, I want to tip my hat to you because I know that's something that you do. You're even there on top of Raul and everyone else, and it's like it's great. It's fascinating to see how you've came from the first job to your second job to your third job now, and I'm very impressed with that. And that's kind of like, again, you could say it now, but I'm going to say it's like you're kind of a mentor of me as well, going back from the days of Crystal Plaza. And even recent, so much respect that I have for you is that if I had to send a guy or one of my vendors ever to your place again, and we had the way she was dressed up was like really not the way I approve these things, instantly, mad respect, we're going to get that fixed right away. And we sent one of our guys in with a tuxedo, go there, help out, Joey, do your thing. But I just wanted to commend you on that, Jay.
It's mutual because, there's a lot of guys that I would do that to. I mean, look, my staff will tell you that I hold them to a very high standard.
Yes.
Sometimes, they joke with me, it's an unrealistic standard. I don't think anything's unrealistic, but I feel like you have to have a standard. And I feel like you need to appreciate people when they do a good job, and I feel like you need to tell them when things aren't perfect, because if you continue to make that mistake and I continue to watch that mistake, then shame on me.
Yeah.
But like if something's less than perfect, I'm going to take a picture of someone that's not dressed properly, or like I don't know where this came from, like where photographers come wearing T-shirts to a Saturday night black tie wedding. I mean, things like that I just don't get. Like, and I'm not crazy old school. Like, I'm okay with the two. I'm guilty to a certain level. Like, I never thought the day of me not wearing a suit and tie every day would ever come.
That's what I've been seeing
too. I wore
a
suit and tie every day, but I mean, I wear a sport jacket and slacks with and don't get me wrong, if it's my wedding, I'm wearing a tie.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like as you see, I'm wearing a sport jacket and slacks, but I never thought that day would come. So I do try to keep up with the times and the trends and all of that, but there are lines to be drawn. On a Saturday night, to come to a job wearing jeans and sneakers, there's a certain sneaker that you could wear with a uniform.
Which looks good, right, yes.
Which looks good. But, like, to be walking around with a T-shirt with your company, like a plain black Hanes T-shirt with your company logo on the back of it, like, I could see like you're taking portraits during the day, but then an hour before the party you put on your suit. Totally.
Are you saying things to them now? Because like I've been seeing a lot of that. A lot of photographers and videographers.
I don't have to say anything to anybody because what I've done.
You stare at them.
No. What we do now is every vendor that comes into our venue has to sign a vendor rules and regulation sheet. And now if they're not dressed or if they're not doing it appropriately, like that's one of my rules is you need to be dressed appropriately. If it's a business casual event, you could be dressed business casual. That's your job to know that. But if it's a Saturday night black tie wedding, how could you wear blue jeans and a black T-shirt? Or a polo. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
So then I will say, or what I do is like, look, I'll say something to them if they say, well, I don't have anything. So what I'll do is I'll write their company a letter. In the future when you work here, I would appreciate if you know that it's a formal party that you're dressed formally. If it's a casual party and you're dressed casually, that's fine. But
those are things I would appreciate
out of respect for your client. And again, you're not doing it for me. You're doing it for the client. You're sticking out like a sore thumb.
I would definitely say something. I think I was at Park Chateau, and a great venue down there. The Murillos are awesome there. And I think I've experienced that with some of the vendors. They're just shorts, T-shirts. It was just like, and this is a place that you're spending almost $300 a plate.
Yeah.
How does a vendor not know that it's $300 a plate? It's not $30 a plate. It's not a VFW.
The Murillos, if they were there, they would not accept that. And, I know those guys and have a tremendous amount of respect for them. And look, at the end of the day, you have to respect yourself and you have to respect the client. And you should know better. And it's not to say that I can't learn. I could learn from every experience. But if you do it once, shame on you. If you do it twice, shame on me. But that's why I think it's important for me to follow up with a letter to the owners of the company or to whoever signed my vendor agreement. I just want to bring a situation to your attention. Look, if I know you, I would reach out to you directly. But if I don't know you, I'm going to send out a letter just to look, we hold our vendors to a similar standard, not for us, for our client. We want to make sure our client and everybody feel comfortable, and we want the Grove to have a certain impression. So we'd appreciate it if you made sure your employees were dressed appropriately.
Do you feel like your venue, your job, your profession, your position, you're influencing a lot of people in the industry?
I never look at it like that. No. I mean, at the end result,
you're trying to grab some words because I feel like you do.
I'm just trying to do the best I can for my client. I represent the Grove. Like when I became the general manager of the Grove, I said, my job is to do the best I can for this company that I work for. And I knew the guys that owned it at that point, because I worked there in sales for a little while. And I always take experience I have and I say, like, look, what could I do different than the guy did before me? Like, what did I learn along the way that I could bring to the table? So, my job and the guys that own the Grove give me so much leeway that I feel obligated to do the best I can for them and to maintain the standard that we've created. So I always try my best just to communicate and, I work for them. If I need something, I'm going to go to them.
Yeah.
But, they hopefully know. And when we spoke about, like, being there to the end, that's a culture that they created.
Yeah.
Either one of the owners or myself is at every party till that last song. And I think that's something very important, and I think that's something that they've instilled in me. So yeah, if it's Raul's party, you're going to see me bouncing around the party as well, because that's the rule. Either myself or one of the owners are there till the end of the party.
You have your team's back, which is cool to see. That
it's not like one thing always is nobody yells at our team. One person in that building yells.
Yeah.
And you caught the wrath 12, 15 years ago once.
Yeah.
But no, it's we don't yell, we don't scream. Early on in my career, guys I've worked for or things I've learned, and me and Alan have the conversation all the time because I think me and Alan Janoff are very similar, a little hot-headed. Alan's been known to roll around with some people and I definitely had that in me early in my career. But we've both learned it doesn't get us anywhere, But at the same point in time, I don't let people abuse my staff or abuse my vendors or anything like that. If mom's having a moment, that's my job to step in and put mom in place and kind of take control and let her know that we're going to handle it and calm things down. Because her yelling at the florist because something isn't right isn't going to fix the flowers. She only has the flowers that she has. But what we could do is we could work as a team to figure out what she wants and how to get it there.
You must have seen it all, especially with flowers.
The day. Yeah.
Flowers, makeups, people.
Brides in their hair and makeup. And I mean, like you said, fistfights, drunk grooms. I'll never forget. We had a groom that was literally taken out by the police. I had a bride leave in the back of a pickup truck after there was a fight. At a party.
Insane.
I mean, the things that I've seen.
And this is the stuff that we see, and we keep quiet sometimes. But it's like it's just been insane. You would do this at a wedding, especially at the Grove. The Grove, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
Vendors,
but you know what? That's the problem with liquor and the way sometimes people handle their liquor, and sometimes liquor's not even involved. Like sometimes there's something leading up to it. I mean, like brothers fighting. That's not unusual, or common. A best man and a Russian wedding that we did. Like a best man had history with someone and thought that they made a comment. And
wow.
Yeah, I mean, we're bouncers, we're psychologists, we're everything.
You encounter a lot of different vendors that have been in business for like 30 years, some brand new. And I know there's been a lot of ass kissing. So a lot of vendors are always trying to they want to be referred. They want to be inside the books with the Grove here. You already established that you hold everyone. One, they really have to be a representation of their brand and, of course, of a reflection of the Grove's brand. What are some of the things that when vendors approach you, what do you want them to kind of, what are the pet peeves of yours where like these vendors come up to you and they're begging for your business, but how do you knock it right off and say, you know what, not yet, You know
what, a vendor that's going to beg for my business is probably never going to make it on the list. And I'm not a big list guy. I mean, how long do we know each other? And over the years, I've sent you a tremendous amount of work, or a reasonable amount of work. Look, I really do my best, and, we're not vendor-driven. We're client-driven. I really do my best to send people to the best vendors for them and, not be so reliant just on the vendor list. A vendor list is a point of reference. It's like, look, if I want a hotel, yeah, these are the hotels that are closest. But, I put hotels that are on my list that give my clients the proper service. I refuse to do business with someone or to put someone on my list that will not give, in talking about a hotel, that won't include shuttle service. I'm a wedding venue. Everybody, and I don't want people to drink and drive.
Right.
So I want you to include a shuttle service. So there's hotels that people know about that are great local hotels or that offer a lot. But if you don't provide a shuttle service and service to my guests, I'm not going to put you on my list, no matter how pretty your hotel is or no matter what the address is or no matter what amenities that you offer, because that's not what the bulk of my clients want. When it comes to anything, photographers, videographers, if a bride comes to me oh, can you recommend a photographer? Show me 5 pictures you like. Do you like dramatic? Do you like photojournalistic? Do you like clean? And based on
I'm impressed that you even know that too.
is what I'm going to recommend to you. But again, that's what makes your experience in working with the Grove and working with the members of our team different. It's I'm going to recommend the vendors for you, not the vendors that are on our list. And you know what? You want to become a recommended vendor? Stop by, say hi. Talk. I'm not going to
just
recommend
don't beg.
you. I'm not going to recommend you because you just sent me a 4-page letter explaining why I should. I mean,
is that what you get?
I got one last week.
Oh man,
I got one last week. It's I know who you are, and if you want to build a relationship with me, give me a call.
I like that.
I am not like the guy that will not answer my phone. Especially, I know you. I know you probably for 15 years. Like, you want to talk to me, call me. Don't send a 4-page email to my info box. I'm not so smart. I throw parties for a living. I lose focus after page 1.5. You know, it's like, you want to talk? Call me. Let's have a drink. You know, I'm open to talk to anybody. I can't promise you that I'm going to recommend you or that's going to make the difference. But like, I'm a real guy. I'm not like, you know.
I've encountered that with a few different, I guess, maitre d's. I've always asked, I was curious, is like, how thirsty are a lot of these vendors from DJs, photographers, videographers, photo booth people? Like, how thirsty are they? And a lot of maitre d's and general managers will tell me, like, they just lost the way of the ethics of just like how to like you said, how to introduce themselves. It's just a quick rush. Hey, I got this many followers. I'm going to take care of you. This. It's like right into business mode without even a welcome and like hello. It's kind of interesting. So
yeah, you want to talk. You want to pop up. You want to come in. Like, look, you're going to approach me to be a recommended vendor while we're in the middle of a turnover? I mean, like, bro, come on.
That's awesome.
You want to stop by on a Wednesday or call my office, say, hey, you know, again, don't leave me a 4-minute message. Just, hey, I was wondering if you had a couple of minutes to talk to me, you know. Again, nothing to hide.
Look at that.
You know, I'd give you the time. I'm more inclined to give you the time with that than, you know, a 4-page. Look, I know you. I know what you did. I know the pictures you take. You want me to recommend you? Send me. Look, here's some pictures I took of a recent event.
I'm assuming your approval also has to be based off of like Raul and your rest of the team, or is it just strictly on you?
No. Look, I am big on. Look, we are a team. We are a family. We spend, you know, Raul's my brother. Tracy, my other sales girl. You know, we all work together. So I don't ever want to create an environment where
Jason
it's
brought
me,
this in,
that's
right.
it. You know, I am not that guy, and I almost never play that role. You know, like, it's me, that's it, that's my decision, that's it. If you have a better way of doing things, or if you want to bring something to the table, the door's open, you know. The door's open. You want to come in and talk to me about something? Open the door, close it behind you. You want it to be private? You want to bring it up? You know, our weekly production meetings are like, someone comes to me like, hey, you know, I'll tell you a funny story. So a band company, one of an old maitre d' sales girl that I had, comes to me and they say, you know, this guy wants you to recommend him, you know, going back to this thing. And I'm like, you know, I never heard of him, you know, whatever. And it's not that I never heard of him. Maybe I just didn't recommend him. A couple of months later, I'm in an event, and I'm like, wow, that band's excellent. Who are they? You know, and she says to me, you know, like, you jerk. Those are the people. I said, but you came to me, and you're like, this is the company. They want to be on the recommended list. That's not how you get in front of me.
No.
Like, this guy should have called me. So, long story short, not only did I think the band was fantastic, but the guy booked his wedding at the Grove. We did his wedding. Now we're doing the brother's wedding. Now they're on our recommended list, but they're on our recommended list because they're great. But like, come and talk to me as a person. I'm a real guy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not that I didn't. I just, someone that's just like, oh, recommend me just because. Don't recommend me just because. You know, send me a video or be like, hey, we're going to be here this weekend. I'd love a couple of minutes to talk to you. I'd love for you to check out our band. You know, here's some pictures of a recent job we shot there. You know, like, give me something. I can't, for my brides and grooms, just recommend someone just to recommend them. Right. You know, there's more passion in what I do than that.
You become not just a general manager or a salesperson. You literally become a planner. Like, you really provide, these are your options of DJs, these are your options of photographers, because you've had that experience. And I believe your clients will definitely...
Yes and no. So this is where so one of my good friends in the business, Fred Fogg from Pleasantdale Chateau, that guy is a planner. That guy has his vendors. That guy is tremendous. So I let the bride and grooms make the decisions. I have no agenda. You know, if you come to me and you ask for something, or when we're booking, I'm very clear, and I'm going to help you plan this entire event. I'm going to give you as much or as little help as you want. When they come to me, I give them the help, and I say, well, what are you looking for? where Fred has built a business with a certain amount of vendors and a certain product that he's able to customize. Like I feel like my spectrum is much wider than that, in the sense, and not that there's anything wrong, because I have so much respect for him, and he throws some of the best parties out there.
Yeah.
And again, he's just a very good friend and someone that I've learned a lot from. But like, I just feel like when someone comes to me looking for help with the vendor, I'm not a vendor pusher, saying like you have to use that, where I think that that's that other category where, you know, I'm generating tons of revenue because you're using all my vendors and we're generating commission or something like that from it. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, and you know, you wanna get pushed more, do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, and not do the right thing by me, do the right thing by the business, you know, because that's the bottom line.
Shit. All right, Jason, thank you. I mean, you've been very helpful, very informative. I appreciate it, and I enjoy the passion and what you've left within us and the rest of this industry. Anything you want to leave or say on this camera? Say your little outros or your social handles, if you have any.
I am, look, it's The Grove. You find us at thegrovenj.com. Any Instagram, anything. I'm not the best when it comes to social media, but you know,
your MySpace, I know.
But Jack, I mean, it's been a pleasure, and I thank you for having me here. I mean, we go back.
Yes, thank you.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for you and what you did, what you're doing here, what you continue to do. You know, you're a friend and someone I have a tremendous amount of respect for.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank
Likewise.
you for putting this together and having me here today.
Well, all right. Well, thank you, Jay. That is it.
That is a wrap. We
All
could
right.
have done that for a long time, right? Yeah.
That's that. Let me move this camera. Jay, this is Greg. He's one of our DJs. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I know. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So
Yeah, that was cool.
I'll keep you in the loop. Like August, this is all going to start being
Yeah.
cut up, and with some like B-rolls and stuff like that from some of the content we have from Grove, and that'll be released on audio and video. So it'll be like on YouTube and stuff like that, and then by the end of the year, we'll see how the attraction goes, and I have a feeling it's gonna be good because Hulu's been on top of me, and then they're gonna dump money in. If it works out really well, they'll dump the money in January,
production go.
and then pretty much everywhere we go, and some other probably gonna pitch us to other DJs too, that they're bringing some camera crews too. So it's kind of just like you said, a clean kitchen. That might be something that they want to capture, because I know your kitchen is clean.
Oh, yeah.
Clean.
Yeah.
Clean. So.
All right. That was excellent. Thank
Enjoy.
you.
Have a great
Appreciate
Christmas
you.
with your wife, all right?
Thank you. Thank you. You guys have a good night.
Door opened.
All right, let me